Elena Carter, 32, had spent most of her life learning how to exist quietly in a family that never truly saw her. Her younger sister, Sophie, was everything their parents valued: polished, socially connected, and married into wealth. When Sophie announced her pregnancy, it wasn't just family news, it was treated like a grand event. Their parents hosted a $12,000 gender reveal on a sprawling estate, complete with a helicopter dropping pink confetti from the sky, catered food, music, and over 80 guests. Everyone celebrated Sophie like she was the center of the universe. Meanwhile, Elena stood off to the side, for weeks pregnant herself, holding a cup of lemonade and clapping along, even as something inside her quietly ached. No one asked about her, no one noticed the way she kept stepping back from the crowd. The only person who seemed to see her was her grandmother, Margaret Hale, who sat silently at a corner table, watching, not the celebration, but Elena. 6 weeks later, Elena gathered the courage to share her own news at a Sunday family dinner. She placed her ultrasound photo on the table and softly said she was expecting. The room fell quiet for a moment, but not in the way she had hoped. Her mother picked up the photo, glanced at it briefly, and then set it back down with a dismissive expression. "Don't expect the same," she said coldly. "You married beneath us." Her father continued cutting his food without looking up, and Sophie casually shifted the conversation to her nursery plans as if nothing important had just been said. In that moment, Elena felt something inside her settle, not shock, not even anger, but a deep, familiar understanding. This was how it had always been. Without arguing or making a scene, she stood up, took her husband Daniel's hand, and left. Daniel was not what Elena's parents considered impressive. He wasn't wealthy or connected, and he didn't come from a powerful family name. But he was steady, hardworking, and deeply kind. He ran his own woodworking business, building custom furniture that people genuinely valued. He supported Elena in ways her family never had, quietly and consistently. As they sat in their car that night, Elena cried. Not just because of what had happened, but because it confirmed something she had known for years. She would never be enough in her parents' eyes, no matter what she achieved. The truth was, this moment wasn't new, it was just the clearest example of a lifelong pattern. Growing up, Elena's accomplishments were often overlooked while Sophie's were celebrated. When Elena graduated with a full scholarship, her parents barely showed up. When Sophie had smaller achievements, the whole family rallied around her. Even their weddings reflected the difference. Elena's was modest and mostly self-funded, while Sophie's was extravagant and fully supported. Elena had learned to accept it, to stay quiet, to avoid conflict. But now, with a child on the way, things felt different. What Elena didn't realize was that someone else had been keeping track of every moment: her grandmother, Margaret. For over 30 years, Margaret had watched the imbalance in the family, silently observing how Elena was treated compared to Sophie. She didn't interfere or confront anyone, but she never missed a detail. She saw Elena show up again and again, with kindness, with consistency, with love, while receiving very little in return. Months passed with almost no contact from Elena's parents. No calls to check on her pregnancy, no interest in her well-being. It was her best friend who stepped in, organizing a small, heartfelt baby shower with close friends. It was simple, warm, and genuine, everything Elena hadn't received from her own family. During the gathering, Margaret arrived quietly and asked Elena to step outside with her. In her hands was a sealed envelope. Inside that envelope was something Elena never expected. The deed to Margaret's beach house, worth over $1 million, had been officially transferred to Elena and Daniel. Along with it was a savings account containing over $4 million, money Margaret had been setting aside for Elena since the day she was born. And finally, there was a letter. In it, Margaret carefully documented years of imbalance, specific moments where Elena had been overlooked, dismissed, or treated unfairly. She made one thing clear: this wasn't a gift. It was a correction. A way of restoring what had never been given. When Elena's parents found out, everything changed. Suddenly, they were calling, showing up, apologizing. They came to her home, desperate and emotional, asking her to return the property, to help with financial decisions they had already planned without her. But for the first time, Elena saw everything clearly. Their urgency wasn't about her, it was about what they had lost. Instead of giving in, Elena stood firm. She didn't yell or seek revenge. She simply set boundaries, clear, calm, and non-negotiable. Respect for her husband was required. Visits would be on her terms. Any form of disrespect would result in distance. She wasn't cutting them off completely, but she was no longer allowing them to define her worth. Over time, things began to shift, slowly and imperfectly. Her parents made small efforts, though not always consistently. Sophie, for the first time, began to acknowledge her role in everything and tried to rebuild their relationship. It wasn't instant or easy, but it was a start. When Elena's daughter was born, everything felt different. Holding her child, she made a quiet promise that this cycle would end with her. That her child would grow up feeling seen, valued, and loved without conditions. In the end, Elena realized something simple but powerful: family isn't about status, appearances, or expectations. It's about the people who show up, who stand beside you without judgment, and who choose you, even when no one else does. And for Elena, that kind of love had been there all along, quietly waiting in the background, until the moment it mattered most.